The NFL has some of the craziest controversies in sports history, from strip club shootings to murder trials. This is the history of every controversial moment in the NFL. And first is the tragedy of Henry Ruggs III. As a first-round pick in 2020, Ruggs was supposed to be the next great deep threat. He had one of the fastest 40 times ever, averaged over 17 yards a catch, and put up almost 500 yards in his second season. But in November 2021, it all came crashing down.
I know somebody probably in there, but this is Henry Ruggs right here. Huh? This is Henry Ruggs right here, bro. Relax, come down.
While drunk driving, Ruggs got into an accident and killed a 23-year-old girl and her dog instantly. The Raiders cut him the same day. And in 2023, Ruggs pled guilty to a DUI causing death and was sentenced to 3 to 10 years in prison. But all the money in the world can't fix Tyreek Hill's reputation. Because even though the cheetah is fast enough to outrun every defender, he's going to be spending the rest of his life trying to outrun scandals. But his latest case is just the most recent in a very long line of accusations. In 2014, at Oklahoma State, Hill was arrested for domestic assault and battery by strangulation against his pregnant girlfriend. Tyreek pled guilty in 2015, received probation and anger management classes, and was kicked off the team right before the NFL draft. Luckily, the Chiefs had no moral compass, so they took him without a second thought. Sure, he was a gamble, but he was the fastest gamble in the league. But they ended up getting way more than they bargained for, because Hill's baggage didn't stop there. In 2019, he was investigated after his 3-year-old son's arm was broken, but there wasn't enough evidence for a domestic abuse suspension, so he just kept playing like nothing happened. But when your son's arm just magically breaks, the media doesn't leave you alone. So he was under fire for months after, until 2024, when he got pulled over right before a Dolphins game.
Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Why don't you have your seatbelt on? Keep your window down. Keep your window down. I'm gonna get you out of the car.
Get out! What part of blood do you understand?
For a second. Go
That cop trying to take pictures of him after is wild. But when this happened, the media immediately flipped, saying that he was a victim of police brutality, and basically, they completely forgot about his son. And when Tyreek scored an 80-yard touchdown that night, they just forgave him. Unfortunately, his peace didn't last long, because right after, as he was starting to gain traction again as a good guy.
We turn now to the new trouble involving NFL star Tyreek Hill. Allegations of a domestic dispute now coming to light in a police report. The police report says Hill's mother-in-law called 911 after Hill threw a laptop during an argument with his wife, Keita, over the couple's 5-month-old baby.
Initially, the issue seemed to stop there until September 2025, when court filings revealed that Tyreek had been beating his wife for years. It'll be interesting to see where this goes, because based on history, everyone might just forget. But ain't no one forgetting about the Saints Bountygate scandal. See, in 2009, the New Orleans Saints defense wasn't just getting paid to win, they were getting paid to injure.
Kill the head, the body will die.
That comes from fear. This is how you get respect in this league. Single one of you, before you get off the pile, affect the head.
We want him running sideways. We want his head sideways.
That was defensive coordinator Greg Williams instructing the defense to hit opposing teams hard enough to force players out of the game. They called it a bounty program. Players threw money in the pot, and payouts were made after games depending on who got laid out. And it went under the radar for most of the season, until the 2009 NFC Championship game, where they targeted Brett Favre mercilessly.
Third catch for Perry, and now they handed to Percy Harvin. And Brett Favre again took another hit. And you're going to see him come in late, right? As Favre lets go of the ball and a clean hit. You're right, Joe. They've gotten some knockdowns on Brett Favre. And you see Hargrove, he comes right inside. And I think that was a bad call. You know, I mean, he's in contact with Favre, and he's just making a tackle at the end of the play.
Brett Favre took those hits like a champ. Dude was hit high, low, late, everything. He finished the game looking like a combat soldier. And when people rewatched the tape later, it was pretty clear the Saints weren't just playing football. They were trying to end careers.
There have been a lot of false accusations in regards to what the Saints bounty, quote unquote, was. And I think initially with the NFL's media campaign, I think it was portrayed in a way that, hey, these guys are being paid to go out and intentionally hurt people. And that was never the case, and it's yet to be proven.
But as the years went on, the hits just kept getting harder and harder to excuse. Then one day in 2012, a whistleblower came to the NFL with mountains of evidence. So the league investigated, found a bounty pool, and confirmed that Bountygate was real. But one of the craziest parts of the whole thing? When the story went public, it wasn't from the press or some some inside informant. It was from Roger Goodell himself. Then, he dished out the hardest punishments the league had ever seen. Head coach Sean Payton was suspended for the entirety of the 2012 season. Greg Williams was suspended indefinitely. Manager Mickey Looms was banned for 8 games. And the Saints themselves got fined $500,000 and stripped of 2 second-round draft picks. And they felt those punishments, going from 13-3 in 2011 to 7-9 in 2012. Drew Brees went as far as saying that Bountygate tarnished their Super Bowl win back in 2010. Well, of course, hitting someone to kill them isn't exactly something to celebrate, my guy. But hard tackles are nothing compared to what sent Aaron Hernandez to prison. See, Hernandez grew up in Bristol, Connecticut, and fell in with guys tied to the Bloods gang. And even after making it to the NFL, he kept them close, rolling with the same crew that lived in the streets while he lived in the end zone. Eventually, that double life caught up with him when semi-pro player Odin Lloyd, who was dating Hernandez's fiance's sister, was found dead near Hernandez's home. The evidence piled up fast. Shoe prints, shell casings, and surveillance footage all traced back to Hernandez being the culprit.
Hernandez's former teammates celebrating football's greatest victory, the New England Patriots Super Bowl win. Meanwhile, a stone-faced 25-year-old Hernandez was entering the first month of his murder trial. Memories of his $40 million NFL contract gone.
By 2015, he was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life without parole. But the craziest part is, this wasn't the only case. Prosecutors also tied him to a 2011 double homicide outside a Boston club that all started because someone spilled a drink on Hernandez.
I mean, I don't know how to explain it, but a splash, like the drink splashed.
Did it get on your clothes or on Mr. Hernandez's clothes that you saw?
On Mr. Hernandez and a little bit on myself too.
Did you continue during the friendship you've described, did you continue to sell Aaron Hernandez marijuana during that time and supply him with marijuana?
Yes.
That man is Alexander Bradley, a drug dealer who had beef with Hernandez. And when he gave that testimony, it looked like Hernandez was going to get a second charge for double homicide. But then surveillance footage surfaced that changed everything. Not only did the time of Hernandez's arrival not match up with Bradley's testimony, but Hernandez was only at the club for 10 minutes before leaving. So with that, he got acquitted of the double homicide in 2017. But the Lloyd conviction stuck. And since that was never going away, he took his own life just days later. A tragic end to a tragic story. But not all players' controversies are tragic. In Pac-Man Jones' case, the only thing tragic is that he was allowed to stay in the NFL after all his controversies. When the Titans drafted Adam Pac-Man Jones 6th overall in 2005, he was supposed to be a god-tier cornerback. And he was. But he also became the NFL's first bad boy of the 21st century. Like, he was catching charges before he even played a single second type bad. Pac-Man was literally on probation during the draft in 2005. The NFL probably thought it was a one-time thing, but boy, were they wrong. That summer, he caught charges for marijuana possession. That same year, his car was caught in a cocaine bust. And in 2006, he was arrested during training camp for spitting in a girl's face at a nightclub. The fact that he only got suspended for a single game from all that is beyond me. But the craziest, most controversial incident of his career came from exactly where you'd expect: Vegas. It was NBA All-Star Weekend. Vegas was poppin', so Pac-Man flew out, got some friends together, and hit a strip club. At first, he was giving off pure baller vibes. He brought $100,000 just to make it rain, gave $10K to Nelly so he could feel included, and was dancing on stage at 2 a.m. Then, when one of the dancers reached down to grab the money, the same money he threw at her, he crashed out because he didn't want her to stop dancing. Witnesses says he literally grabbed her hair, punched her repeatedly until the bouncers dragged him off. But the real headline came when they kicked him outside. Apparently, one of his boys was pissed that the party was over, so he opened fire on the club. 3 people got hit, and the club manager was paralyzed for life. This story immediately went nationwide, and Pac-Man obviously denied everything. Realistically, he should have gone to prison that year. Instead, he cut a deal, pled guilty to a misdemeanor, and testified against the shooter. But he wasn't let off that easy by the NFL. Roger Goodell had just made a personal conduct policy for the league, so Pac-Man became the guinea pig. They suspended him for a year, and 5 years later, a jury ordered him to pay $11 million in damages to the club. In hindsight, they should have gone way harder on him, because he hasn't learned anything. Since the Vegas incident, this man has been stopped by the police twice, accused of domestic violence, linked to another shooting, and arrested 4 times for assault and disorderly conduct. There are legit gang members with smaller rap sheets than this man. Like, how the hell did the NFL not kick him out after all that? Like, damn! It wasn't like his crimes came out of nowhere. Unlike Ray Rice's controversies did, this guy was the face of the Baltimore Ravens and had no history of arrest or violent incidents. But in 2014, it became pretty clear that people didn't know Ray as well as they thought, because TMZ released an elevator video of Ray knocking his fiancée out cold.
Questions build over how it handled this domestic abuse case. Also, people are buzzing over if the NFL knew about this tape and did nothing until it was leaked to the public.
At first, the NFL only gave him a 2-game suspension, but once they realized how bad the video was, the Ravens cut him immediately, and Ray got suspended indefinitely. But it's definitely not the only time an NFL controversy started with a man putting his hands on a woman, because one of the biggest NFL controversies ever was because of a nipple. Yeah, for real. Because when Justin Timberlake and Janet Jackson were performing at the 2004 Super Bowl halftime show, JT pulled a crazy move. Fun fact, this was the most searched video online at the time, and it literally inspired someone to create YouTube. But while every Reddit mod was flooding Google with video searches, the FCC also got flooded with 540,000 complaints. CBS was fined $550,000, introduced broadcast delays, and from this point forward, halftime shows were never the same. But we're now done talking about hands-on controversies, because this next one involved Kareem Hunt and his feet. See, when the Chiefs drafted Kareem Hunt in 2017, they thought he'd be running through defenses. And they were right. They just didn't know he'd be running up on women too. Because in 2018, TMZ dropped a video of Hunt shoving and kicking a woman. His boys tried to say he was calling him the N-word, which definitely isn't cool, but not exactly a green light for throwing leg kicks. And the Chiefs agreed. So they cut him the second that vid dropped. The thing is, the NFL has a goldfish memory when you average 4.5 yards per carry. So after he served an 8-game suspension, he went to the Browns. Then 6 years later, right back in a Kansas City uniform. Apparently, when it comes to the NFL, kicking a woman doesn't get you banned for life. Just traded to Cleveland for a while. And in some cases, that's more than enough of a punishment. But honestly, way more should have happened to Adrian Peterson after disciplining his son. Because Adrian doesn't give timeouts like the average parent. He likes to discipline his son the old school way, aka abuse him. In 2014, Peterson was indicted in Texas for reckless injury to a child after using a wooden switch, basically a baton, on his 4-year-old son. And it wasn't like it was a one-time thing. His son was covered with cuts, slash marks, and bruises.
I disciplined my son the way I was disciplined as a child, adding that without the discipline he experienced as a child, I could have been one of those kids that was lost in the streets.
I stand here and I take full responsibility for my actions. I'm anxious to continue my relationship with my child.
I'm sure the apology was appreciated, but ultimately, no one cared. The Vikings benched him, Nike suspended their deal, and the NFL put him on the commissioner's exempt list. He never got jail time, but by November, the league suspended him without pay for the rest of the season. But beating your kid isn't enough for the league to risk ratings, so he came back in 2015 and played all the way to 2022. And in hindsight, he 100% should have gotten jail time, because as recently as 2018, he straight up admitted that he still disciplines his son with a belt. Maybe he avoided punishment because the NFL has already seen way darker headlines, like with what happened to Ray Lewis. See, following the end of the 2000 Super Bowl, Ray Lewis and some friends went to the Cobalt Club in Atlanta, and everything was chill until they were ready to go home. Because as they were leaving, one of Lewis's friends, Reginald Oakley, started getting aggressive with other people at the club. Then, when someone hit Oakley with a champagne bottle, it got violent. A full brawl kicked off. 2 men were stabbed, and Ray jumped into his limo to get out of Dodge. Once his friends got in with him, they sped off as the limo got lit up with gunfire. When police found the limo and saw the blood inside, they arrested Ray, Oakley, their other friend Joseph Sweeting, and charged them all with murder. The trial became one of the biggest stories in sports, and it looked like Ray's career was going to be cooked. So instead of going down for murder, Ray cut a deal. He pled guilty to obstruction of justice, testified against his friends, and the murder charges against him were dropped.
I've saw so much death, even before that if anybody ever had a glimpse of what I've seen before that, they know I'm the last person that's about to create death or take life. I was built and born to give life. That's what my whole work ethic and everything is all about.
To this day, he denies having any involvement, but that didn't stop people from labeling him a murderer for the rest of his career. Even though he went on to win 2 Super Bowls, a Super Bowl MVP, and eventually a gold jacket in Canton, he'll always be tied to that fateful night. And listen, we'll never know if he did it or not, but there's one thing that'll always be weird to think about. The night of the murder, Ray was wearing a white suit, something that should be easy to spot blood on, but sometime between the fight and getting in the limo, it disappeared. It would never be found again. But it's not the only thing the NFL couldn't get its hands on, because they never caught Ricky Williams giving a clean drug test. See, back at Texas, while his other Longhorn teammates were competing in their Trent Olympics, Ricky was trying a different kind of enhancing substance.
Was running for the Heisman, and I my girl for 2 years. Okay, we broke up, and it's like right after we broke up, I went to her house to bring her stuff back, and the quarterback on the football team's car was parked. And I was like obsessing about this, and my friend was like, "Dude, you gotta chill." And so he just brought it out. He said, "You gotta hit this," and I did, and it was the first time where I was like, okay, I wasn't obsessed, and I wasn't thinking about it. I could sleep and relax.
respect for only sticking the weed. Getting cheated on by your own QB is diabolical. But by the time he was in the NFL, his lungs were basically half THC. Somehow, he still balled out. 800 yards as a rookie running back, then 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons. But here's the problem. Weed wasn't legal, and the NFL was not your chill uncle. So when they caught him in 2004, a 4-game suspension. But Ricky hit him with the Uno reverse and just straight up retired. He got clowned on hard by everyone. But instead of giving in, he doubled down, traveling the world, studying holistic medicine, and lighting up like there was no tomorrow. Unfortunately, you can't do that forever with no income. So in 2005, he came back and then failed another test in 06. This time, Goodell kicked him out for the whole year and put him on a strict testing regimen.
So at one point, I was being tested 9 times a month. Okay, so that's like two times a week.
Most people would learn from this, but not all Ricky Williams. In 2007, he got caught again, and this time, Goodell denied reinstatement. Dude literally became the first player banned for being too chill. Eventually, Goodell let him back in the league in 2008, and despite the stoner brain jokes, Ricky still had the wheels of a legend. After years of the sleepy lettuce, at age 31, he hit over 600 yards, and the next year, 1,121. By 2012, he officially crossed the 10,000-yard mark, retired for real, and co-founded an herbal wellness company. Bro spent half his life as a chimney and still hits 10,000 yards. Seriously, what a comeback. But one ongoing controversy has the potential for the craziest comeback ever. And even if he doesn't deserve one, it would be insane to see Jon Gruden get out of this. Between 2011 and 2018, Jon Gruden was at the peak of his career. Not only was he an NFL coach, but he was also the highest paid analyst on ESPN. These days, when you got that kind of fame, it's only so long before something from your past comes back to ruin it. And in 2021, while Gruden was with the Raiders, the NFL leaked emails Gruden had sent to the Commanders executive that were a little rough to say the least. They included Gruden mocking the NFL's first gay player, trashing women's referees, and even calling Roger Goodell a Unsurprisingly, he resigned within days of the leak. Then he went nuclear and sued the NFL. Because here's the thing. Sure, he made some out-of-pocket comments, but they were only found when the NFL investigated the Washington Commanders' workspace culture. And out of these 600,000 emails, Gruden's were the only ones that got leaked. So Gruden claimed that the NFL leaked them on purpose to ruin him. And believe it or not, in 2025, the Nevada Supreme Court ruled that his case could move forward in public court. So instead of Goodell making it go away like everything else, he might have to hand over documents and face questioning in a way he's never done before. Listen, Gruden might be a complete douchebag, but I think we'd like to see Goodell actually face consequences for once, because he's definitely spent enough time putting everyone else on trial. Like with the now infamous Deflategate scandal. It's probably the biggest scandal in NFL history.
Deflategate.
Deflategate. Deflategate. Did they or didn't they? It's the alleged cheating scandal launching 1,000 saucy headlines. Deflategate.
Hell, people still make jokes about it to this day. And ironically enough, it all started because Tom Brady, the GOAT, threw an interception.
I think Brady picked DeQuell Jackson with a big interception over the middle.
After the play was over, DeQuell handed the ball to a staffer as a keepsake, and that's when someone noticed it felt soft. At halftime, officials tested the footballs, and out of the New England's 12 game balls, 11 were under the minimum 12.5 psi required by NFL rules. And in cold, wet conditions, softer balls are way easier to grip, throw, and catch. So the NFL launched an investigation, which led to the Wells Report in 2015. The conclusion? It was more probable than not Patriots staff deliberately deflated the balls. Supposedly, it was only done through equipment managers though, meaning Brady had no idea.
Did Tom Brady have any knowledge of these balls being deflated?
No.
So you're saying he's completely innocent in whatever happened to those balls?
In my opinion, yes.
I didn't alter the ball in any way.
I don't believe there's an equipment manager in the NFL that would, on his own initiative, deflate a ball without the starting quarterback's approval. I just didn't believe what Tom Brady had to say.
Denying it is the smart move, to be fair. But when texts were released from the equipment managers, one man had literally nicknamed himself the Deflator.
This is the guy who handled Tom's balls. It's Jim McNally, the locker room attendant named in that NFL report as the man who deflated the footballs. He refused to comment.
Seriously, what a headline! And that headline definitely didn't help Brady's case. So the NFL suspended him for 4 games, fined the Patriots $1 million, and they lost a 2016 and 2017 4th-round draft pick, which barely even hurt them, because after Brady came back, well, he did something a little embarrassing to the Falcons that season. But what Michael Vick did wasn't just embarrassing, it was straight up evil. Because while Vick was dominating on Sundays, what he did behind closed doors ended up shocking the world. When in 2007, federal investigators raided his Virginia property and discovered Bad News Kennels.
Bad News Kennels was started, that's wanting to breed
pit bulls with the patches and the ones that, you know, looked pretty, and it was show dogs, and we was gonna sell them. And it just went from one aspect to another. It was kind of scary back there. Everything was all black. That was our cover-up. We had a place where we trained the dogs. We had, you know, and 50 dogs on, like, chains. And it was the area where we had all the medicines and things that we used. Then you go upstairs, and that's where they used to tangle.
Michael Vick had been caught operating an illegal underground dogfighting ring. And as bad as that is, it only got worse. He not only admitted to training dogs to fight, but also to executing the losers via electrocution, drowning, and hanging. That's probably the most evil thing on this list. But the fallout honestly wasn't even that bad. Sure, he lost all his sponsors, got suspended, and went to prison for 23 months. But when he got out, he was welcomed back to the NFL with open arms by the Eagles. It immediately sparked protests from PETA and major media backlash, but barely even fazed him, because he went on to have a 3,000-yard passing season. So killing dogs was basically a side quest for him between MVP-level seasons. And while thankfully not everyone in the NFL has evil tendencies, for the Patriots, they're just obsessed with cheating. And in the early 2000s, they were the best at it. They were dominating defenses, making plays that always worked, and going to Super Bowl after Super Bowl. And everyone just thought it was a goated coach and QB combo, but it went far deeper than that. In 2006, NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell issued a warning to all teams, stating that filming the opposing team was prohibited and that doing so would result in a severe punishment. Seems pretty fair to me. Well, it wasn't fair to the Patriots, because in week 1 of the 2007 season, Jets head coach Eric Mangini busted them for filming the Jets defense.
You know, Bill and I had some conversations, just sort of ground rules of operating. But that being said, when it came to this, it was, we're not going to have this in New York. It's just not going to happen.
But you had to go to your owner or GM and say, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
Thing is, Mangini was close with Belichick, so he didn't want to go after them. But he didn't have a choice, and it probably would have been contained if a Fox analyst didn't get a hold of the video.
How'd you get the Spygate video?
You're a cute kid, I can't tell you that. But all of a sudden I get this. Tom steps in, and I was like, oh, okay, they're warming up. Brady's throwing, and all of a sudden, boom. Ted Cottrell, who's the defense coordinator of the Jets at the time, I believe, he's out there doing the signs. It's that, and then down in distance, and you know, oh my God. I'm like, oh my God. So I go to Fox, and I tell them what I have, and Fox immediately says, "Did you steal it?" Did I steal it?
Yeah, it was broad as day. The next week, Goodell came down hard on the Patriots with a $500,000 fine for Belichick, a $250,000 fine for the franchise, and their rights to a first-round pick in 2008 were stripped. At the time, those were the harshest penalties ever handed out. And it didn't stop there. The NFL made the Patriots turn over the tapes, then destroy them to ensure they wouldn't be used again. Belichick brushed it off, saying he had misinterpreted the rules. But whether or not he lied didn't matter. The tapes were destroyed, and the case was closed. For like less than a day. As it turned out, the Jets incident wasn't just a one-off slip. The Packers caught the same videographer in 2006. Then former Belichick assistants said it had been going on since 2000. And an ESPN analyst even reported that the Pats jammed radio frequencies that messed with other teams. Goodell continued to insist it was a one-off. But if it was, why did he destroy the evidence? That question alone made it bigger than football. That's when a literal senator stepped in. See, Senator Arlen Specter was a lifelong Eagles fan, and after realizing his team might have been robbed of a Super Bowl, he went to Goodell for answers. After interviewing Goodell for almost 2 hours, he got what he wanted. There was confirmation that there has been taping since 2000 when Belichick took over. It looked like there was no way out for the Cheatriots. Because on top of this revelation, a former Patriots videographer came forward with a stash of tapes from 2002 showing 5 different teams across 8 videos. So with the evidence mounting, what happened? Absolutely nothing. Goodell let them off the hook. The Pats took their punishment and then went scorched earth on the league. They finished with a perfect 16-0 record. Of course, they lost in the Super Bowl, which gave every hater the greatest karma punchline in NFL history. Still, it would have been nice to see Goodell find his balls and actually punish them, because he sure as hell doesn't skimp on punishing players. But in Josh Gordon's case, punishment was completely avoidable. Drafted in 2012, Gordon looked like he was about to take over the NFL. In 2013, he led the entire NFL in receiving yards, even while suspended for 2 games, because he was pretty much unstoppable on the grass. The problem was, whenever he was off the field, he always had some extra grass on him. From 2013 to 2019, this man racked up 6 separate suspensions for weed and substance abuse.
I want a big, fat picture of Josh Gordon, next to it
$5 million, and then I want the screen wiped away. Blacked weed. I can't take it. I can't take it. It's millions of dollars, and all you have to do is stay off the weed.
Every time he got caught, Stephen A. Smith would have a stroke. Then every time he'd sober up, there was insane hype around a comeback.
America's the land of second chances, especially in the world of sports. With that being said, I'm done with Josh Gordon. I'm done with him. I hope that he resurrects himself and gets straight, but I harbor no sympathy for him whatsoever.
And then he'd get busted again.
This should just about do it for Josh Gordon's NFL career. If the reports out tonight are true, the suspended Browns receiver failed another drug test, and it was for marijuana again.
By the time the league finally erased its weed rules in 2021, his career had already burned down. This man literally had the talent to be an all-time great. But all anyone remembers about Josh isn't his ability to smoke defenders, it's just smoking. But while he ruined his career with drugs, Riley Cooper found a way to do it at a Kenny Chesney concert.
I will jump that fence and fight every here, bro.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't part of the lyrics. And when the Eagles saw that, they definitely didn't want him interacting with the team. So he got fined, suspended from practice for a week, and sent to sensitivity training. When he came back, the locker room energy was, well, let's just say different. And even though he ended up staying in Philly for a couple more years, his reputation never recovered. Turns out racism wasn't as cool as he thought. But 60 years ago, Jerry Jones thought it was cool as hell. Because in 2022, an old pic of Jerry at a desegregation protest resurfaced online. And he wasn't exactly on the right side of the protest.
The photo, shot by the Associated Press back in 1957, shows a group of black students trying to integrate classes when Jones was a sophomore. The young men are blocked from entering the school by a much larger group of white teens. And there's Jones in the background.
He brushed it off as being a curious kid at the moment, and that could have been valid if he hadn't avoided hiring black coaches for his entire career. But apparently, it was valid enough for the NFL, because the story faded sooner than it blew up. But Ben Roethlisberger was not as lucky with his scandal, because in 2009, Big Ben got in big trouble when a Harrah's casino worker in Lake Tahoe accused him of assaulting her in his hotel room.
A former Nevada casino worker who has accused Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger of sexual assault says she'll drop her civil lawsuit if the Super Bowl winning QB acknowledges the rape and apologizes. The woman's attorney also says in a letter to Roethlisberger's lawyer that his client would like the signal caller to donate $100,000 to the Committee to Aid Abused Women, a nonprofit organization in Nevada. Roethlisberger's attorney says his client will not accept the offer.
Unfortunately for the victim, the case didn't gain much traction in the media, and no criminal charges stuck. And ultimately, it was settled civilly in 2012. Big Ben probably thought he was in the clear, but he was not prepared for what was coming his way in 2010.
Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger is being investigated
as he faces allegations that he sexually assaulted a college student here at Capital City nightclub behind me.
His bodyguards came and didn't grab my arm, but was like, hey, come here. Took me to this back hallway. He followed me in and shut the door. That's when he proceeded to have sex with me, and the whole time I said, no, we really don't need to do this. This isn't okay. We shouldn't be doing this.
After that video came out, Roethlisberger took the usual superstar PR course and apologized.
I've wanted to apologize to them for so many things, for being immature, for being dumb, for being young, for not knowing any better, for getting caught up with everything that was thrown my way.
That's not even really an apology, but apparently it stuck, because the prosecutors dropped the case, citing a lack of evidence. But it didn't make the police report look any better. Heavy drinking, bodyguards blocking people off, it basically painted a picture of a guy who thought he could get away with anything. So, Goodell suspended him for 4 games, making Ben the first player banned without criminal charges. But did it change how fans treated him? Oh yeah. Dude still gets called the Pittsburgh rapist to this day. Yet somehow, this isn't even the most messed up thing a player has done, because Jovan Belcher committed one of the most out-of-pocket crimes on this list in 2012.
Police say Belcher killed his girlfriend on Saturday and then killed himself in front of his coach. Caught in the middle here, the most innocent conceivable victim, the couple's 3-month-old baby girl. ABC's John Triffin is outside Arrowhead Stadium, where today's game will still be played. John.
Well, the Chiefs consulted with the NFL and decided to go ahead and play against the Carolina Panthers as scheduled. Many are hoping that today's game will serve as a way to bring this reeling community together.
That's got to be one of the most out-of-touch decisions of all time. That coach is never going to sleep right. The whole league was pretty much in shock, and the Chiefs were just like, yeah, crazy stuff. Anyway, who wants to play football? But that's not even the craziest way a team has handled a scandal, because the Cowboys completely got away with theirs. See, in the 90s, the Cowboys were basically rock stars, and since they were so famous, they couldn't escape drugs, girls, and hotel bills so big, the IRS started giving them the side eye.
And no matter what, they always found the real hotel. They always found the real hotel.
Yeah.
So, and the girls would always be there, man.
He's just a good host. Waiting there?
Yeah, the big Cowboy fan.
So Michael Irving and a few guys decided no more hotel rooms. Let's just get a house.
We were trying to do the wrong thing the right way. I thought it was a brilliant plan, actually. You know, a couple guys throwing a couple $100 every month, and we got use of a home, big old house, 5-bedroom house, and it worked for a while.
It was laid everywhere.
Because we were like, okay, we don't want to have all these cars. We will park somewhere else and everybody shutter open. But then, you know, as like all plans, as you go through it, everybody started drinking and alcohol, and then you get everybody start parking at the house.
You say everybody and you exclude yourself from everybody.
No.
You weren't doing any of that at the White House?
Yeah, Mike was definitely not lying. When the story broke, it came out that they were doing every drug on the planet at that place. But the craziest part? After they got caught, they just kept winning like nothing happened. 3 Super Bowls in 4 years, all while running a full-on Scarface party in the suburbs. Rush Limbaugh would have had a field day with this one. If you're wondering how a conservative radio host ties into the NFL, well, back in the early 2000s, sports media didn't have the provocative, hot-take personalities it has today. Dudes would just get on the air, talk about sports, and leave. But ESPN wanted Stephen A. Smith before Stephen A. Smith. So they tried something a little different and hired Rush Limbaugh, a conservative radio host. In theory, it wasn't a terrible idea. But on just his 3rd show, he'd said something so wild about Donovan McNabb that he resigned the next week.
I think the sum total of what you're all saying is that Donovan McNabb is regressing. He's going backwards. And I'm sorry to say this, I don't think he's been that good from the get-go. I think what we've had here is a little social concern in the NFL. I think the media has been very desirous that a black quarterback do well. I think there was a little hope invested in McNabb, and he got a lot of credit for the performance of this team that he really didn't deserve. The defense carried this team, I think, and he got credit. I think he got a lot of credit for the defensive side of the ball winning games for this team.
This dude seriously pulled a reverse race card on a guy who led the Eagles to 5 NFC titles and a Super Bowl. Not surprisingly, Rush left the company after that. But while Rush is nowhere near the biggest controversy in modern NFL media, that would have to be Colin Kaepernick. This guy was one of the most hyped up quarterbacks ever when he was with the 49ers. But in 2015, it all burned out. He lost the starting job, got injured basically every play, and wasn't even considered B-tier by 2016. So he needed a way to reignite his fame. And luckily for him, police brutality and racial violence were on a rise that year. So with his future in the NFL on the line, he decided to take a stand, or a seat, I suppose.
It happened right before the 49ers preseason game against the Green Bay Packers Friday night. San Francisco 49ers quarterback Colin Kaepernick sitting alone, surrounded by teammates, as the national anthem was played.
Ultimately, it's to bring awareness and make people realize what's really going on in this country. There are a lot of things that are going on that are unjust, people aren't being held accountable for, and that's something that needs to change.
Obviously, people questioned it, so Kaepernick switched from sitting to kneeling, thinking it would be more respectful. But respectful or not, it blew up. Half the country saw him as a hero, the other half as a traitor. But more importantly to him, the NFL saw him as radioactive. The 49ers cut ties. No one ever signed him again. And just like that, his attempt at a revival turned into a controversy that defined his entire career. And even though the kneeling controversy started in San Francisco, the story got so big that even Jerry Jones felt like he needed to weigh in.
He told reporters at AT&T Stadium the NFL can't leave the impression that it will tolerate players who disrespect the flag. Jones said, quote, "If we are disrespecting the flag, then we won't play, period."
Just in case that wasn't clear enough, he straight up told his players if anyone kneeled during the anthem, they'd be benched. Yeah, what a shocker that old school Texan was the only owner to make that kind of threat. But compared to this next NFL owners controversy, Jerry Jones looks like Jesus. I mean, the Dan Snyder scandal was literally the longest and ugliest stain the NFL has ever had to deal with. And it all started when Dan Snyder bought Washington's NFL team in 1999. But whatever fans expected with a new owner, they didn't get, because over 24 years, he absolutely ran the franchise into the ground. But his failures as an owner absolutely pale in comparison to the literal crimes he committed throughout his tenure. And in 2020, the Washington Post was the first to break it.
It says 15 women who worked for the team alleged sexual harassment by former scouts and members of owner Daniel Snyder's inner circle.
Yeah, he was a bad guy. But these accusations were just the beginning. Shortly after this announcement, the cheerleading squad dropped even more accusations, saying they were forced into topless photo shoots and had to act as escorts for sponsors.
I learned that placing me strategically by the owner at a work dinner after this networking event was not for me to discuss business, but to allow him, Dan Snyder, to place his hand on my thigh under the table.
I was not one that wanted to come out publicly in the beginning. I was terrified, as are so many other former colleagues of mine. But I speak on behalf of them. I speak on behalf of those who've signed NDAs, who've been silenced, but who lived through the horror that we all lived through there.
Snyder tried to get ahead of it by doing the most zero IQ thing ever, launching into an investigation on himself. Seriously. And he lawyered up, but he didn't go for Saul Goodman. Nah, he brought in the big guns. Beth Wilkinson, the same lawyer who saved Hillary Clinton's aides from jail time. Unfortunately for Snyder, the NFL took over like a month later, because it's kind of hard to trust a probe that's investigating yourself. And they came in hard, gathering thousands of emails, documents, and every witness they could find to send Snyder below the jail. Still, Snyder fought like hell. He intimidated former staff, tried to shift the blame to lower-level employees, and even sent private investigators to hunt down witnesses. Well, the NFL did not like that. They fined him $10 million, gave the evidence of interference to Congress, and shortly after, Congress released a statement.
Today's news confirms our worst fear. Dan Snyder actively fought to undermine the NFL's investigation into the Washington football team's hostile workplace culture. According to this reporting, not only did he try to prevent a key fact witness, a woman he allegedly paid $1.6 million in a sexual misconduct settlement, from speaking with investigators, he went as far as to send a private investigator to witnesses' homes. Snyder will stop at nothing. To get to the bottom of this story, the NFL must immediately turn over all evidence of Snyder's interference and the other documents we requested over a month ago.
Dan must have shit himself when he saw that. And if he didn't, he definitely did when the House of Oversight Committee launched its own investigation. And once they started digging, it somehow got worse. Former team president John Wright admitted the workplace was toxic, and even more employees testified against Snyder for harassment. But to top it all off, investigators found that Snyder was running shady financial schemes, including skimming ticket revenue that was supposed to be shared with other NFL teams. By 2022, Snyder was truly cooked. Even other owners who never turned their backs on each other wanted him gone. So he finally caved in. In 2023, he sold the Commanders for $6.5 billion, the largest sale in North American sports history. Did he go to jail? Of course not. When you're rich, that's not an issue. But everyone hates him so much that he couldn't even sell his houses. He literally had to donate them because no one would buy. But apparently, the dagger to Dan's soul wasn't the houses or selling the team. It's actually that they're doing great without him. Close friends have legit reported that their success is killing him. And just knowing that, I genuinely hope they win as many Super Bowls as possible before he dies. But the wildest NFL controversy of all time? O.J. Simpson. Obviously, because O.J. was bigger than the game. He was the first running back to crack 2,000 yards in a season, a Heisman winner, and a Hall of Famer. But more than that, he was a crossover star. Movies, commercials, endorsements, everything. He was literally America's golden boy. And then, in June 1994, his image in the NFL were changed forever, because O.J.'s ex-wife Nicole Brown Simpson and her friend Ron Goldman were found brutally murdered outside Nicole's condo. Immediately, the police zeroed in on O.J. He was supposed to surrender peacefully. Instead,
what has been going on down below as the presumed vehicle of O.J. Simpson is still traveling very slowly northbound along the 5 freeway, coming up again towards the 91 intersection.
It was one of the most surreal moments in TV history. The most famous NFL superstar was in a highway chase that lasted 2 hours while his friend drove 35 down the freeway. I mean, this was a national event. 100 million people were watching, but he couldn't run forever. When the police caught up with him, they found him holding a gun, arrested him, and charged him with double homicide. And that's when the circus really began, with the trial of the century, which lasted 9 months. The prosecution prosecution had what looked like overwhelming evidence: OJ's blood at the crime scene, bloody socks in his house, and DNA linking him to the murders. Mind you, this was cutting-edge science at the time, which made it even harder to deny. Luckily for OJ, he literally had the best lawyers of all time on his defense, nicknamed the Dream Team. They made the case way more than just OJ. First, they destroyed the lead detective's credibility. Then came the glove. See, there was a bloody leather glove found at the scene. When he first tried it on, it didn't fit. And since it didn't fit, OJ's lead lawyer, Johnny Cochran, got to drop the most famous line of all time.
It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
And with that, the jurors went into deliberation. After 9 months of live TV coverage, 150 witnesses, and a non-stop media spectacle, everyone expected it to take days. Nope, done in 4 hours. And the verdict? Not guilty. The verdict basically split the country. Millions celebrated, millions were outraged. And the debate has never gone away. But OJ, he didn't care at all. He memed it in commercials.
OJ said to me that he had a surprise for me, and I genuinely was surprised.
Did you do it? No, I didn't.
I think it was his idea of a joke.
Nope.
And this is it.
Did not do it.
And even tried publishing a book called If I Did It, which is next-level trolling. But even though he escaped prison in the 90s, karma came back for him in 2007, because when he was in Vegas, he stormed a hotel room with guns to take back his own sports memorabilia. He was convicted of armed robbery, kidnapping, and sentenced to 33 years in prison, but only served 9 before getting released in 2017, then dying in 2024. Bro literally beat a murder charge, then actually went to the slammer for stealing his own stuff.